This is Super Yacht News with Sisman.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we're going to go into our first story, and this is about MY Phi. Now, you remember this vessel has been in London in Canary Wharf since last year. Well, the owner of MY Phi took the UK government to court last week, and he lost his case. So the UK government's arrest and detention of the Russian businessman's £38 million yacht, which is about $49 million, was lawful, a London court ruled today. The court rejected the case by Sergei Naumenko, a property developer who is not on any sanctions lists, and ruled in favour of extending the 2022 detention of the 60-metre or 197-foot yacht Phi. The judge, Ross Cranston, ruled that the UK government has a lot of leeway in this type of action, saying that the Secretary of State is entitled to a broad margin of discretion in deciding that the detention power is to be exercised in pursuit of the government's foreign policy aims. The yacht arrived in London in December 2021 and has been detained since March 2022 when she attempted to leave Canary Wharf. One of the reasons why she was there was to go to an award ceremony in London. So this will no doubt be a boost to the government's attempts to get tougher on wealthy Russians and encourage them to speak out against the Russian President Vladimir Putin, which seems to be the desire of the UK government to get prominent Russians to speak out against the war in Ukraine. Now, Naumenko had sued the UK's Department of Transport, saying that he's never been involved in political activities, he has no connections with the Russian president, and that the boat was detained by the UK just to look tough. Now, the UK court rejected Naumenko's argument that the UK is effectively trying to compel Naumenko to criticise the Russian government without considering the adverse impact on him and his business at home, in Russia, of course. The UK government's lawyer had argued in the hearing that the yacht was detained as Naumenko fits the criteria of a person connected with Russia. Sanctioning a luxury yacht sends a signal to other super-rich Russians and can potentially deter them from giving political support to the Russian regime or tolerating its actions, the government's lawyer had said in the hearing that was last week. We're going to go on to our next story, but these are connected, these stories, based on what we just talked about with Sergei Naumenko. And this is about Oleg Tinkov. He's the owner of motor yacht Ladacha. And we've not really mentioned this vessel on the channel in the whole year since last year, because this is a person who has effectively been outside of the political discussions. And we'll go into that now. He was sanctioned by the UK, but the UK has this week removed sanctions against the Russian-born Oleg Tinkov. He's the most outspoken billionaire to criticize Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. The Foreign Office said on Thursday that Tinkov would no longer be subject to sanctions following an appeal which he argued the UK had sanctioned him in error, and he enlisted support of people such as Richard Branson, as well as Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who's a major opponent of the Russian president, to make his case. Now, whereas most Russian oligarchs have spoken out against the invasion only in sort of guarded terms, Tinkov has denounced the war, calling it crazy. He also renounced his Russian citizenship last year. Now, he has previously posted on Instagram comments such as, "I don't see any beneficiary of this crazy war. Innocent people and soldiers are dying." And then he went on to say, "I can't watch my former countrymen killing and robbing civilians for no good reason." That was from a post in October. And he said, "I hope more businessmen will follow my example and stop working for fascism and give up their businesses and citizenship." This is what I was saying about Sergei Naumenko, because what happened after he did this is the Russian government basically took his company from him. He has a Russian bank and he owned a large stake in this bank. Now, after posting these comments, he said he was forced to sell his shares in the bank in Russia in a fire sale. And he said that if he'd refused to sell, the government would nationalize the bank. Now, there's a long history of the Russian government doing this to companies in Russia. He sold his shares to Vladimir Putin, someone we've recently mentioned on the channel, and another yacht owner. And he said he was forced to sell for about 3% of what they were worth. So this is what happens to Russians if you criticize the Russian government. and he's now in hiding, fearing for his life. Now, remember what Mr. Nomenko said in the London court. He said that the government was effectively trying to compel him to criticize the Russian government without considering the adverse impact of him and his business at home. Well, there's an example of what happens when you go out and criticize the Russian government, right? They basically take your companies from you. So anyway, we'll move on to our next story. And this is the owner of the Spanish-based management company based in Palma in Mallorca, Master Yachts, which closed after he was charged by the US of fraud and money laundering when he changed the name of a yacht on paper to circumvent US laws. Now, the Spanish court, the National Court, which I think is the equivalent to the Supreme Court, they have said that he will not face extradition to the US because they had said in the previous, they had requested the extradition of Mr. Masters to the US to face these charges. So if you remember, Mr. Masters had changed the name of a boat on paper from Tango, which is an orange drink in the UK, to Fanta to circumvent some laws in the US, which is the allegation by the US. Now, the vessel belongs to Victor Vekselberg, and he's been on the list of sanctions of the State Department in the US since the invasion of Crimea in 2014. However, the European Union didn't include him on any package of sanctions at the time of the charges from the US. Now, without that, the activity carried out by Mr. Masters is fully legal according to the order of the National Court. Now, the Magistrates Court also rules that the issuing of a series of invoices in the name of the yacht Fanta instead of Tango does not constitute a crime or falsehood, since they are mere documents between individuals and they don't alter any legal documents. And the last block of charges for money laundering is also dismissed by the National Court. In this case, because the United States does not accredit or maintain in its arrest warrant that the funds used to maintain the yacht had come from any criminal activity. So that charge was also rejected. In the meantime, Yacht Tango is still in Palma in Mallorca. It's at the Club de Mar Marina in Palma. And the vessel was seized in 2022 in an application of the sanctions imposed on the invasion of Ukraine. And the US government is picking up the tab for all maintenance. And they've also got Yacht Amadea in the US, haven't they? Okay, so we'll move on to our last story. And this is about Yacht Ragnar. We mentioned in the previous video that the vessel had been sold and would be renamed. Well, it has now been renamed according to AIS. And it's been renamed from Ragnar to the name Q. This is obviously a reference to James Bond. And the owner, the new owner, is an American called Roy Carroll, and he's a real estate development billionaire. He's building a brand new yacht, and they believe that the new yacht will have a James Bond themed name. And this vessel will be his support vessel. That's the word on the ether, at least. So yeah, I think that's a perfect support vessel. So I'm sure it will do the job very well, and I'm sure the crew will be very happy to have an American owner, because you know all of the issues they had last year in Norway, being effectively arrested by the people when they refused to sell them fuel, so they couldn't leave for almost 2 months. All right, guys, a couple of more things before I go. I'm very excited. We've got a new video dropping on Sunday. It's a new feature and it's a big production, and we spent a lot of time on this, so I'm really looking forward to seeing your feedback on the video that's going to come out on Sunday. And one other thing about our Patreon channel or Patreon page, you can now get a free 7-day trial, so you can check it out for a week. This is a temporary thing that we've put up there. You can actually go and set up an account for free for 7 days, and you can check it out at no charge. So I will put a link up here. You can go and click on that and go and set up an account. Now, the video that I've just mentioned that's dropping on Sunday on the YouTube channel is already live on the Patreon page, and there are 2 follow-up videos to that video that's being posted on Sunday on the YouTube channel, and they are, you know, extras and things like that. So yeah, you can check that out. And just one reminder, check out our SuperYacht News channel. It's all the goodness of these videos in bite-sized chunks. You can find it at superyacht-news.com. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching. If you've got any information about any of the stories here or any others, please be sure to get in touch. You can get us on the About page of the YouTube channel. You can get us on Instagram, on Facebook Messenger, on Twitter, also now on Threads, and you can catch us on Threema. Be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for future notifications. All right, guys, thanks very much, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.